What's wrong with you people?
We're indebted to you.
Oh gosh, well it's just absolutely wonderful to see you all tonight.
In spite of this nasty weather we're being in.
In spite of the nasty weather, Tony.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome tonight. My name is Michael Spath, and I'm the Executive Director of Indiana Center for Middle East Peace, the host for our program tonight. We're the Indiana voice for peace, justice, human rights, and intercultural encounter in the Middle East. And we take that responsibility very seriously. We're in our, it's 2019, we're in our 15th year of doing this. And from the very beginning, really from the very start, Plymouth Church has been just such an integral part of who we are. And we're really grateful to the pastors and the leadership and the people of Plymouth Church for their partnership in our work. And so I want to invite Pastor Timothy Murphy to say a word of welcome to us tonight, who's the pastor and teacher here at Plymouth Congregational Church, United Church of Christ.
Good evening again. Thank you all for being able to come out tonight. Just a few logistical things to let you know about. Thank you again for being here. We have restrooms that way. There's water fountains if you need anything to drink. There's also water and coffee there if anyone needs an extra snack as we're hearing things tonight. And though I've not been here for 15 years, I think tomorrow's my 6-month anniversary here.
Hey! Congratulations! Happy anniversary!
Thank you. I'm very much looking forward to continuing that partnership for many years to come. Part of Plymouth's identity and our core values very much align with the work of the Indiana Center for Middle East Peace and Israelis Against Housing Demolitions. We're an open and affirming church welcoming LGBTQ persons. We're a church that supports environmental stewardship for the next 7 generations, protecting our planet, and 2 of those core values very much relate to this work, which is just peace, seeking those things that promote peace and justice in our world, and global mission, partnering locally and globally for those values of peace, justice, and compassion. And so I look forward to hearing about the work of solidarity that Israelis Against Housing Demolitions do, as well as what Mr. Halper has to say this evening. So thank you all for being here, and I hope you find this to be invigorating, stimulating, and energizing event.
And just to supplement what Timothy had to say, he knows wherever he speaks because he, in 2007, met with representatives of the Israel Committee Against House Demolitions on his trip to Israel and Palestine. And so we're really grateful, Timothy, for your warm welcome. Thank you. So you know how it works. I spend an hour or so today working on this wonderful flyer for our upcoming programs, and it's sitting on my desk at home. So I'm gonna mention this to you, and maybe you can make a mental note or at least check our website, etc. We really have a very strong winter and spring coming up. So I hope that if you're not on our mailing list or email list, you can check with me or Joan or one of the other board members. February 21st, Thursday evening, February 21st, we have one of the most prominent American Jewish voices of conscience, author, commentator, filmmaker, Max Blumenthal from Washington, D.C., who I was just in touch with Max today. We were texting back and forth, and I was on the phone with him setting up his flight, so that's all taken care of. And he'll be talking about the perpetual war on Palestinians by the Israeli government and also by the U.S. government. He's known especially for one of his latest books, Goliath, Fear and Loathing in Greater Israel. And his most recent work was a film he did that just came out in 2017 called Killing Gaza. So watch your emails from me, as well as our Facebook page, as well as our website for Max coming on February 21st. It's a Thursday evening here in this room in Plymouth Church. And then we're really excited because of a generous grant from National Endowment of the Arts and Arts United and the Indiana Arts Commission, as well as the generosity of a number of you. On Saturday evening, March the 9th, in the sanctuary, we're welcoming a Sufi, I need to move this away from my mouth a little bit more.
Sorry.
A Sufi ensemble, a Sufi chorus, as well as dervishes who have an evening, and we're calling it Dance of Unity, Dance of Peace. And they're going to perform for us. It's really not a performance, but it's the devotion of the Sema dance, you know, the turning of the dervishes. And so we're really excited to be welcoming them. We had a Jarahi, the Jarahi order coming, and the Sheikh got very ill, and so they're not able to come, but we had a choice between a Syrian group and another group, and I asked for the other group. It's an order of women dervishes. And so you don't find that around the world. You find that in this country, and it's even rare in this country. But you know, we're not only Indiana Center for Middle East Peace, but we're also Plymouth Church, and we do that kind of stuff here. And so anyway, Saturday, March the 9th. Tickets are $20. So be looking for that as well. We're really excited about that. It's been a dream of mine ever since we moved to Fort Wayne to host the dervishes here. And I spent a lot of time in Istanbul and are friends with one of the orders of dervishes up in the hills next to the Suleymaniye Mosque. And so we're excited to be hosting the dervishes here. That's March the 9th. I want to say thanks to our partners, Indiana Center for Middle East Peace partners tonight, Victoria Gibson. Where are you, Victoria? Thank you. And Jim and Julia Nixon for being partners for our event tonight. So thanks to both of you. I think that's it. We have sweets and treats. Thanks to Joan Coslow and other members of our board, Barb O'Connor. Yeah, Ani, what do you need me to say? Oh, and Judy and Frank Wright. My gosh, Judy and Frank, where are you? Thank you for being partners tonight. I appreciate it. Jeff Halper. He's been really, I met Jeff back in 2004 in the courtyard of the St. George's Anglican Cathedral in East Jerusalem. And he's really been my teacher ever since. I mean, you know, none of us know about these things on our own. We always stand on the shoulders of giants, and Jeff really is one of those people. He's really been my teacher and my mentor, and I want to acknowledge that publicly, and I appreciate that very much. 2006 Nobel Peace Prize nominee, nominated by the Quakers, arrested in the flotilla. How many times have you been arrested? Who's counting? Arrested as part of the flotilla that was trying to break the blockade on Gaza. Founder of the Israel Committee Against House Demolitions. Seeing the demolition of houses as kind of the encapsulating the entire matrix of control that the Israelis have in Palestine and Israel. And what he's going to talk about tonight, really, he's one of the leaders of the joint Palestinian-Israeli One Democratic State campaign. So we're really delighted, Jeff, to have you here and to welcome you to Fort Wayne and to welcome you to Plymouth Church on behalf of Indiana Center for Middle East Peace.
So thanks to Mike, thanks for the church, everybody that put out the effort to get me here, and put out the effort to come out tonight. You guys are the hardcore, I think, with this weather. Yeah, I'm Jeff Halper from the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, which is an Israeli peace and political group. We're a political group that fights the Israeli occupation, but we've always been political in the sense that we want to work for an end to this whole oppression, this whole situation. Not simply protest, not simply resist, not simply comment or critique. And so we've tried to be strategic all the years that we've been working. The problem is, you know, you can't be in a political struggle without an end game. And for many years, the end game, in a sense common between Palestinians and certainly the Israeli left, or the Israeli peace camp, was the two-state solution. And in fact, the two-state solution was accepted by the United States, by the international community, by the United Nations, by the Arab League, and that was our project for many years. But over the last, certainly 6, 7, 8 years, it's clear, if not before, it's clear that the two-state solution is gone. I'm going to argue tonight that it never was. And so we've been floundering for the last few years. All of us. I think some of the organizations in this country, like the U.S. Campaign and Jewish Voice for Peace, and others have a little bit lost the focus. And I think they're floundering and are trying to find something to do in a way, even to read to it. Because if we're not giving leadership and direction from there, you know, you're not going to liberate Palestine from Fort Wayne. You know, you can go so far, but it's true. You're not the ones that can say what the solution is, where to go. That has to be the stakeholders back home. And so we're trying to do that. We're an organization that we've set up called the One Democratic State Campaign. We're about 50 Palestinians and about maybe 15, 20 Israeli Jews that have sat for the last year and a half to really begin to formulate a political program. I want to talk about it tonight. This is the program, so I'll pass this around. Do I just pass it this way? I think this should be enough for everybody.
I passed them out for you today, sir.
Maybe couples will take one or something. But I'll talk about this more in depth, but at least you have something to take home. And in the back, you'll see there's a name of about 150 Palestinians and Israelis that have endorsed the program. So I'm not coming just with an idea, but I'm coming with the beginning. We're going to launch in April the beginning of a political movement towards a one-state solution. What I'd like to talk about tonight as well is a strategy of how to get there. So, let's begin the beginning. One question, I don't think this, you don't want to turn down the lights, Terry?
Yeah, I want some light on you. That's coming
That's kind of light, isn't it?
You want the middle one off? Okay. You'll be in the dark then.
I'll be in the dark. Oh, why, because of the filming?
Yeah, on the film.
Yeah.
Problem?
Yeah, we're live streaming and I'm filming. So
Wait a minute. Do it. Can you do it?
yeah, he'll hit the light. Go ahead.
Do it for a second.
Yeah.
Can you get the
Yeah.
slides okay?
It's okay.
Because I'm not.
We're okay. We're okay.
We're okay now. It's
You can
okay.
get this, right?
We got you. We got you.
Okay.
Oh, between my voice and the picture is
Yeah,
enough.
we got you.
But one question I start with is why should we care so much about this conflict? I mean, why, when it's below zero, do you guys come out at night to hear about this? You know, there's 1,000, probably more than 1,000 conflicts in the world. Some of them are worse than this conflict from the point of view of the scale of violence. The Congo, jumps out as one of those kinds of conflicts. Almost anywhere you put your finger on the globe, you're going to find a conflict that really should be resolved. Why are we so, in a way, preoccupied with this one? And I think there's some very good reasons. Of course, the oppression of any people is important. So the fact that the Palestinians are an oppressed people by itself demands attention. The fact that Jews are doing the oppressing is kind of a new aspect. The Jews that have had this history of themselves being persecuted. The idea of finally coming together in their country, and that country becoming an apartheid regime that's repressive, certainly is something that's hard to ignore. The Israelis, complain of a double standard. But in a sense, we've raised the bar. We've been the ones that have been active in human rights and civil rights for years and years. Jews are very liberal. Jews have sort of set a certain bar for what we as a persecuted people demand of others. So when we turn around and begin to act in oppressive ways, it's kind of appropriate that people call us and say, hey, how can you do that? Of course, this is happening in the Holy Land. So there's certainly a Christian component to this. The fact that we sing about Bethlehem on Christmas and it's a walled-in city, should mean something to Christians. Christians today in the occupied territories are only 1.4% of the population. So you're in a situation where Christians have really, if not been driven off the land, have been induced to leave. And the Christian population was the backbone, the middle class of the Palestinian society. So losing the Christian population really damaged the ability of the Palestinians. The first real nationalists in the Palestinian community were Christians. So, so that's a part of it, I think. So there's a lot of, those kinds of issues that kind of tie the conflict to us as well. But there's something else, I think, that's important. And of course, I had the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, so we're always trying to show exactly what's happening on the ground. So our analysis is grounded. Israel's demolished about 55,000 Palestinian homes, only in the occupied territory. Thousands more inside Israel since 1967. So it's one of the most painful parts of the occupation, and I think that the plight of Palestinians, I think it's unusual also, Palestinians are an oppressed, occupied people in what's really considered a Western democracy. I think that's also part of the reason why the Israeli-Palestinian issue stands out. You have almost routinely oppression in the global South. I mean, we have the Syrian war, you have Myanmar, you have the Congo, you've got what's happening in Latin America in many places. But this is a situation, it's a Western democracy, Israel, or it presents itself as a Western democracy, a part of the OECD, the club the exclusive club of advanced economies, an ally of the United States, maybe the closest ally, we all keep saying, on the southern border of Europe, that's an apartheid regime for at least the last 50 years, but I'll argue, has been pursuing a settler colonial project for the last century. Well, that certainly stands out as well. But there's another whole aspect that I just want to mention, and that is that Palestine is also a global conflict. It isn't simply a spat between two local peoples. If it was that, it wouldn't really demand the attention that we give it. The main reason, I think, why the Palestinian issue is such concern is that it destabilizes, first of all, the Middle East. Israel is a tremendous source of militarization and polarization in the Middle East. Israel has become, ironically, you know, we've always talked about the Arab-Israeli conflict. But ironically today, with its military power, Israel, I would argue, has become the hegemon of the Sunni Arab world. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and the states around, not so much Syria and Iraq right now, Iraq a little bit, almost look to Israel as their leader in terms of the fight against the Shiites, Iran and their allies. Israel is very involved with the United States in the Saudi attacks in Yemen. Israel is very involved in Saudi Arabia itself. There's a whole love affair going on. The Saudis can't dream of dealing with the Iranians without Israel. Egypt can't, I don't think Sisi could stay in power without in different ways, policing ways, Israel supports his regime. Even Sudan, that has an extreme Muslim government, is making feelers towards Israel. So that Israel has inserted itself on the Sunni side in this kind of Muslim civil war, with all the destabilization and manipulations going on. As a matter of fact, there's an Israeli company that's being sued by Khashoggi's family, you know, the journalist who was killed in Istanbul, and he was caught through eavesdropping equipment supplied to the Saudi government by an Israeli security firm. So that's, of course, one issue. You're not going to, and John Kerry used to say this all the time, you'll never, it's not the only issue, I'm not saying that, but you're never going to stabilize the entire Middle East and deal with the conflicts and get it on the road to development and stability without resolving the Israel-Palestine issue. It's that constant irritation and source of polarization and violence that it would disrupt any attempt to try to stabilize this entire region, which is a pretty important region in the world. But there's even something more global than that. And that is, you know, I wrote a book called War Against the People. That was my last book. And, you know, the question that always nagged at my mind, you know, when I'm on the ground in front of a bulldozer, you know, trying to defend a Palestinian home, the question that was always nagging me was, how does Israel get away with this? You know, like we're saying, a European country on the southern border of Europe, in absolute violation of every human rights covenant, international law, defying dozens of UN resolutions, and yet its international status improves all the time. You know, for Israel to be accepted to the OECD, which is the 25, and now might be 26, most advanced economies in the world, it has to be voted in unanimously.